The rhythm of healing, the Octaves method. O is for observation, through stillness we find meditation and breath work that quiet the mind. In silence we listen, the answers are clear, awareness emerges, dissolving the fear. C is for compassion, for self and for all, embracing the good, the struggles, the fall. With kindness we grow, we nurture, we mend, learning to love ourselves as we extend. T is for therapy, a path we explore. Daily we practice unlocking the door. From journaling to mindfulness, healing begins. Each step is a victory as peace settles in. A is for animals and laughter so bright, like children at a play, their joy taking flight. With playfulness and movement, we rediscover the way to heal through the fun that we often delay. V is for victuals, nourishing and pure, detoxifying the body and keeping us sure. We choose what we eat with intention and grace, fueling our journey at our own pace. E is for exercise, where movement is free. We stretch and we bend in sweet harmony. Flexibility grows with choices we make. In strength and in stillness, our bodies awake. S is for socialize, where self-growth begins. Others reflect our triggers and the places within. Through relationships, our true selves we find, growing and healing with each tie that binds. The Octaves method, where all behavior makes sense. We just need to find the sense it presents. We just need to find the sense it presents. We just need to find the sense it presents.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Season 5 of the Trauma and Social Work Podcast. I am KJ Alexander here with my co-host, Tonya Octave, and today we have a lot of important information to dive into. But before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and let Tonya tell a little bit more about herself and what this podcast is about.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tonya Octave, and we are going into Season 5 of Trauma and Social Work Podcasts, where we will be discussing and diving deep into my book called Heal the Mind, 7 Strategies Towards Mental Wellness, Happiness, and Success, Exploring Trauma, Mental Wellness, and Ways to Live a More Balanced Life. And before we begin, just a simple reminder that this podcast is for informational purposes only. It is not intended for medical, psychological, mental health, or legal advice. Although I'm a licensed professional, this is not a formal type of treatment. We may talk about things like hypnosis and meditation and things that we would do in a therapeutic, from a therapeutic perspective, but it's not a form of treatment. For individual questions about your wellness, your happiness, and your success, please seek out a professional. And if you are experiencing a mental health crisis, do call 911 or go to your nearest emergency room.
Great, awesome. That was amazing. So with that being said, I want to make sure I tell the audience, if you haven't already, follow this page on Spotify, YouTube, and any other platforms we post episodes on. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any upcoming episodes in the future. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get started.
Yeah, absolutely. So I just had a question since you mentioned that cooked vegan food is technically says heated over 104 to 118 degrees. So technically, would you be able to cook vegan food that's maybe a little less temperature than that? Maybe you cook at 100 degrees. Would that still be considered cooked vegan?
So in the raw vegan community, they kind of feel like 105 is a good cutoff to say that that's raw because it has something to do when it reaches a certain temperature, how the enzymes changes,
Okay.
the cells that make up the food change after a certain temperature. So usually it's considered raw under 105, and anything above, I
Yeah.
don't know if that even matters though, really.
Yeah. That was a question I had
I
too.
mean, when you're first starting off, a part of it is just trying to get the food in the body and to change the taste buds, not get caught up in what this person says or this person, unless you want to do like a complete, like raw vegan, like cleanse or something like that, then you probably want to stay under a high 105. And usually 105 are when you're making maybe wraps, when
Okay.
you are doing like a coconut wrap, or maybe you need a little bit more fluff to a substance like a pancake. So you might do it in terms of that. So it's really like how much water do you need in terms of the physical structure of what you're trying to get. So, for example, if I am making a chip for, let's say, a nacho dish later on that's raw, I need to remove more water. So I'm going to be at 105 and it's going to be in my dehydrator longer. But let's say with the same ingredients, I didn't want to make a chip, but let's say I wanted to make a pancake, that would be interesting, or like a bread,
Yeah.
like a thicker part of bread. I would make it a thicker in terms of substance, and I would leave it less in the dehydrator because I would want more of the water to keep
Okay.
to sustain in the.
Yeah, that makes total sense. So it really just depends on what you're looking for, what you may have a personal need for, because you definitely can get a lot of benefits from cooked vegetables. But then, I was
Yeah,
also thinking like, what if you get like, let's say you get a veggie sandwich, a bunch of vegetables, but then you get the bread toasted, that may that may inadvertently cook some of the vegetables, but like you said, I don't think it makes that much of a difference. At least in the beginning, you really just want to get that
you just want to
into.
get it in.
Yeah,
And
for sure.
like the idea with raw vegan is really that you're eating these uncooked fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds and sprouts, but you can change them in shape, flavor, texture to really mimic things that you're familiar with eating now. Um, the raw community really feels like this is a way to preserve enzymes, vitamins, phytonutrients, which can really be lost in the cooking process. So that is the push for raw because it's easier in terms of the digestive system by reducing things like inflammation and supporting gut health. Um, Also, another way just to add more water. Fruitarians believe that they get essentially all the water that they need to sustain them from their fruit, which is already containing kind of some of those natural fruit water soluble things that can go into the body.
Hmm.
Um, Eating cooked foods is big in Ayurveda in India, in
Okay.
Ayurvedic practices, and they will cook all of their vegetables. And the rationale behind that is because when you're cooking it, it believes to break down and makes it easier for the digestive system. So there might be steaming, baking, sauteing. They might include other things like grains and legumes, things like that. There are certain vegetables where there is consensus that should be cooked, and those are usually tomatoes, carrots, and I think a few other. For some reason, I like my tomatoes more raw than cooked. So
Really?
whenever I remind myself, I try to cook them, but they always usually kind of end up in the raw form. Mhm.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So continuing through this chapter,
Can
you
I
go on
ask you
to.
just a couple of
Yeah,
questions?
sure.
How would you describe like, or what is something that that young people would do in order to get more vegetables into their diet? Like, what would be your recommendation? for people to get more vegetables in their diet?
So I mean, for me personally, just looking for alternatives to maybe some places you would already go, and seeing what other options are available. Like I know, for me personally, going to like places like Subway, instead of getting, tuna or whatever chicken sandwich I may usually get, I'll usually go for the all veggies option. And even if they do toast, they may toast the bread or whatever. I'm getting mostly a lot of raw vegetables. Um, and then just being careful on what you add to it. Like try not to add too much like salt and refined sugars and things like that.
Mhm.
Being really conscious of ingredients and reading labels and things like that, and understanding like certain terminologies that you may not be familiar with. I think that's a very good place to start. And then, yeah, typically a lot of, especially now, a lot more companies are being more health conscious. So they're coming out with more zero sugar products and more healthy alternative products. So
We
just
got to
being,
be careful of those
yeah, for
too.
sure. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. You have to be careful of those, but just being aware that there are more options now available, I'll say, than in times past. So yeah, I think that's a good way to start. Just maintain and build that awareness, and then anytime you go somewhere, ask if there are healthier alternatives available for you.
So maybe pretend like what, let me see your food allergy list recommendations on the menu. So asking for those other menu options. You mentioned like Subway. That's great. I actually made another dish here.
Ooh,
And this is this wrap I did not make. I just bought this wrap
okay.
from the store. You can get them at Sprouts. But I made like a little sandwich in here. And so part of this is a nut seed um, tuna base, if you can kind of see it. So it's
Yeah.
made out of walnuts. There are some sea vegetables in it, just so that to have the flavor of what like maybe a tuna sandwich from Subway may be. Then you can put it in a wrap and then take it. The one thing is the sauce. I usually carry my sauces separate because then this ends up becoming wet as the day goes on, and then I'll just pour it down. The other thing are these really good coconut chips that I made. Let's see. Well, here. And these coconut are just, I buy the organic coconut chips. I soak these in coconut aminos, um, added a little bit of molasses because I want to work on some iron today. And I put them in the oven on the lowest temperature. I've also done these by putting them in the dehydrator, and I like them just as good. I just didn't have as much time, so I put them in the oven, and then they kind of sit on my counter until I eat the rest of my salad. So you could even, and then this is even like in a bed of lettuce type stuff, but you'll see some of the coconut chips on that, and then this could be an option. I know Subway won't necessarily have these things. Oh, there's a little bit more
Mm.
parsley.
Yeah, it looks yummy, I must say.
I wanted that parsley.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
So if we could continue, you did mention there's a section in this chapter regarding fruits, and you talk about, well, I'll read some of this section. So boosting the immune system, fruits are a sweet and fleshy product of a tree or plant that contains a seed or seeds that can be consumed. They are high in vitamins and minerals. Fruits that support detoxification are apples, lemon, berries, pineapples, papaya, and pomegranate. Fruits with the most nutrient density are white grapefruit, blackberries, pink or red grapefruit, limes, oranges, strawberries, and lemons. Alkaline fruits include avocado, persimmon, papayas, lemons, limes, blueberries, plums, oranges, mangoes, grapes with seeds, apples, pears, pineapples, strawberries, peaches. kiwi, apricot, nectarines, honeydew cantaloupes, bananas, cherries, cooked tomatoes, and watermelons.
Mm.
So a very vast list there.
Makes it
And
just so water rich when you
oh
describe
yeah,
that list. Like my mouth is
absolutely.
watering, all that juiciness.
Absolutely. And one thing I would add too is about fruits that I learned semi recently was that eating fruits are a good way to maintain hydration because for the most part fruits, especially watermelon, I mean it's in the name. Watermelon is like 90% water
That's
anyways.
the name.
Yeah, so if you're a person who has a hard time with hydration and drinking proper levels of water, eating fruits is actually a good way to kind of supplement that in a sense. So you do have to
So
be
if you're eating some watermelon, what could you sprinkle on top of it or add it to get something green?
um I guess you could add some herbs. Not sure which herbs would be best.
Then play
Um
around with it.
I know some people put there's this seasoning that's very popular in like Mexico Hispanic community. It's called chamoy. It's
Hmm.
kind of like a pepper seasoning. Sometimes you'll see people put it on like alcohol or like a fruit. They'll put it like the fruit
Okay.
stands will have them. I'm just not sure how healthy it is, honestly.
So it sounds like it's a spicy and it comes. So then I would say we're talking like a pepper, like our cayennes and things like that.
Yeah.
Those come from peppers. So what would it be to take a pepper you are familiar with, a green pepper or a jalapeno, to cut it up, put it on the lowest heat in your oven, or let it set outside until it can air dry and it starts to kind of shrink because the water starts to leave. Cut it up or crush it up. See if you could crush it up and see if it becomes a powder. And what would it be like for you to sprinkle it on there? Because it seems like we're mixing the sweet with some salty and spicy.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
for
so,
sure.
like, that's what I want you to start thinking about is not what other people do. What does this body that KJ lives in, what does this body want to try? This body may not like it when you do basil. This body may love it when you do kale. I posted. I did a watermelon. I was at a retreat and I had a few ingredients. Now I was thinking, how can I put something green with my watermelon? I did watermelon, kale, squeezed some lemon, and I probably had a little bit of some sort of spice that was in that country, some sort of like that gave it a little umph, and
Okay.
pumpkin seeds for the
Oh,
crunch. And I
okay.
mixed it up, and it was so good. So don't be limited by your own mind. Think of, okay, I have this. I have some other stuff at home. What would it be like to experiment?
Hmm.
What would it be like to add kale to watermelon or parsley to watermelon or basil to watermelon?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely worth exploring those options for sure. Absolutely. And I was just gonna mention, you do have to be somewhat careful because of fruits do have a lot of natural sugars. But I wanted to ask you, what is your opinion on, fruits and the natural sugars? Is that something that we should be worried about, or is that okay for the most part?
I think if you're not struggling with issues like diabetes or cancer, or heart disease, then I think you can have fruits, and fruits are
Okay.
amazing. The fruitarian community is very healthy. However, they're not fast food and fruit.
Yeah.
They're fruit that's natural and organic. So there's a little difference than, people who want to consume the American standard diet.
Yeah.
But I think if you ate fruit, as long as your body wasn't in a disease state, it's like beautiful. Like, fruit really has the vitamins, the minerals, the antioxidants, fiber, hydration. So it has these amazing things that it can do for our body. all fruit isn't good for all bodies. Some
Mm,
bodies are
okay.
allergic to certain fruits. Like I have a slight allergy to bananas.
Ooh.
So I can't really eat a whole lot of bananas or plantains. I got to be careful or mindful of that. And when I do, I'm definitely eating it with something green. Blueberries doesn't even raise my blood sugar. So I haven't ate those a lot growing up. Now I can really reap the benefits of having blueberries if I wanted something sweet, like with an oat milk or like on top of a coconut yogurt or mixed in maybe some other granola or dehydrate them. Um, but there are many things. I eat fruit like papaya seeds. I take the papaya seeds, I dehydrate them, I crush them up, I make them into a pepper because those seeds are really digestive enzymes. So even when I'm eating a salad or like my sandwich today, I could easily sprinkle the papaya seeds over that just to help with the digestive enzymes being released. So I mean, I absolutely think vegetables are beautiful.
Right, for sure. And I think that's good to make that distinction.
Even pomegranate. I
Yeah.
started putting pomegranate in my dog's food, and she could care less, even though she has a sweet
Mm.
tooth, but she likes it because it's mixed in with other stuff that she really likes. But
Okay.
sometimes she'll flick the pomegranate out somewhere else.
Oh.
But she even too, I try to get in her diet, I'll try to get her a little bit of fruit. Mhm.
Oh, that's adorable. And
Mhm.
yeah, I just wanted to mention briefly that we talked about earlier how certain companies they're trying to be more health conscious or at least appear more health conscious. And there's actually a new product that came out. It's Dr. Pepper, but they call it blackberry. So I thought that was interesting because we know that blackberries typically are extremely helpful, full of antioxidants. But when you mix it with something like Dr. Pepper soda, which is,
Acidic when you
acidic,
mix it with acid. Yeah.
on average, 40 grams of sugar in a 24-ounce can. And that completely eliminates any health benefits you would have got from the blackberries.
Mhm.
So,
You might as well just eat them in the raw form. You know, it's kind of
yeah.
interesting because if you look at the ingredient list, the first ingredient is the most, and then it kind of each ingredient is less and less after that. Blackberries is probably towards the bottom. So you're
Yeah.
probably not even getting a whole lot of blackberries. You're probably getting maybe
A
a
small
quarter
amount.
of one with all the juice because that's all that's required in order for them to advertise blackberry.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was interesting. And then, so you go on in this
Did you
chapter
get
too.
it? Did you
I
drink
haven't
it?
tried it yet. I haven't tried it yet. I
Okay.
probably will try it soon. It just
I
kind of
wonder
came
what it
out.
tastes like. Don't
Yeah.
try that
We'll
poison.
see. I mean, I'm sure in small amounts it's okay with proper amounts of water,
You're gonna
hydration.
test your body. You're
But
gonna say, "Let's see how this does." I think I can
yeah,
on a
for
really
sure.
thirsty day, right?
Right. Absolutely. Not too much though. But yeah, so you go on in this chapter to
Keep
talk
your
about
chlorophyll near you. Just have your chlorophyll water after that, or your chlorophyll pills.
right, absolutely. So and this will probably be the last topic before we wrap up. But you go on in this book to talk about the importance of nuts soaked and dehydrated.
Mm-hmm.
So you say in the book all nuts should be soaked. There are different recommended times for soaking, but I practice something easy. I put my nuts in a bowl, rinse with water, and then keep them in fresh water overnight. I dehydrate them for hours. If I want a different texture, like a crunchy taste, some recipes call for dehydration, nut mix, and sometimes I will only soak the nuts when making nut milk. And you go on to talk about the benefits of soaking nuts, but my first initial question would be you say all nuts should be soaked, and I wonder if is that something that it's kind of like the vegetable thing where you have raw versus cooked vegetables. Is it like is there a significant difference between soaking the nuts versus the unsoaked nuts?
It's a play on the digestive system and whether or not you're making it easier for the digestive system to break down and process the nuts and takes what it needs and excrete the rest.
Okay.
So when you soak nuts, you rehydrate them back, you bring them back to life. And when you digest it after they've been soaked, it eases the weight on the digestive system. That being said, if you are traveling and it's a package of nuts or a package of chips, the package of nuts hopefully will be better if it's just nuts.
Yeah.
Important thing to know, there's been a couple of studies, and I've read, one particular about the nuts from California and how they are not healthy in terms of that they sit for years and years and years, and they do develop mold. And what happens is in these refineries, they rinse off the mold, air dry them or heat dry them, then package them.
Mm.
So the nuts that we eat, if it's not organic, it's probably coming with some sort of mold. And that's not to scare people, that's just to be aware of what you choose to eat, because we get mold from all kinds of things, not just nuts.
Yeah.
So I would say that that would probably be another thing I would add. You making sure you're getting nuts that are organic, then soaking them. And then after you soak them, you can eat them. You can put them in a blender to make a dressing. You could put them in the blender to make not the blender, in the food process to make a dip. So that is a measurement of liquids. If you want a dip, it's less water. If you want a dressing, it's more water. And I say water, but it
Yeah.
might be like a liquid like apple cider vinegar or something like that in terms of
Okay.
flavor and structure. You can also, after you soak them, you can season them with beautiful herbs. You can do like a Chinese blend. You can do a mesquite blend. You can do an Italian flavor blend. And then, so you would then, after you soak them, you keep them in the bowl. You kind of, I probably would massage a little bit of coconut oil on my hands and the herbs, and then I would put them in the dehydrator for a crunch, and those usually becomes my snack. Another thing you can do is after the dehydrator, you can even crush them up more, and then they can be like a topping for your salad, kind of similar to like well, my coconut would be similar to a bacon bit, but that might be similar to something to give you that crunchy taste and satisfying if you were eating a salad that you made on your own. So there's different ways, and even with the nuts, you could flatten them out, and you probably need to add maybe like some olive oil or flaxseed to help them stay together, but that could then be like a part of a bread or part of a cracker or things like that. So you can change the physical structure of them to get what you want. But ideally, you're starting off with like a soaking process, a cleaning, soaking, rinsing with clean water, flavoring if you choose, dehydrating, consuming, or changing the structure and putting it into something that you would consume,
Mm.
like even a pie crust with pecans.
Mm.
Those are very, very good. Pecans are good because they have a sweet taste to them. Brazil
Mm.
nuts are good. Um, you might even play with some of the other nuts. Like one of my favorite, I use pine nuts for my salad dressings.
Mm.
I'm moving away from cashews, but I even use cashews because it gives it that creaminess of a salad dressing. So really it's like the combination of like fats and proteins and fiber. And how can you do all of this to stabilize the blood sugar? If your blood sugar is stable, you're less likely to have these spikes, ups and downs throughout the
Yeah.
day. That also means you're less likely to have mood fluctuations up and down the day. There's not a lot of science behind this, but there's a book out there that this lady wrote about seeds and how women should seed cycle. So she recommends 2 seeds the first 15 days of a menstrual cycle and 2 seeds after that. Um, Interesting concept in terms of regulating mood. What that is, saying though is how you can put things into the body and you can have more control on the output instead of dismissing the output. He made me mad. She causes me so much stress. My boss doesn't listen to me. So instead of the external, other people causing you problems in your life, you can figure out how to keep yourself in balance, how to be in harmony, how to have order in your life by what you put in. There is something that they say, like what you eat is what you are.
Yeah, that's a very powerful quote right there.
I
Absolutely.
must be a cucumber sandwich with hummus.
Something like that.
I'll
Some
take
vegetable.
I'll take being a cucumber sandwich with hummus over being a cow. How about that?
That's a very good point right there. And I think that is a great place for us to leave it for now. We will continue this discussion on our next episode. But before we close out, was there anything you wanted to mention or bring to the audience's attention?
I'm going to be releasing the 7-week hypnosis sessions on weight loss, where we're going to be talking a lot about, or I'm going to be sharing information about food. There's that psychoeducation part of it, and then there's the hypnotic part that you'll listen to every week. It'll talk about supplements and how to think about things in safe ways. Nourishment is not just about like feeding the body. Also, we have to kind of consider that it's about supporting the mind and nurturing the spirit. And so that's why I say we heal in this 3-pronged process: the body, the mind, and the spirit. And I've even come to believe even in that order. So when we choose foods like our herbs, our vegetables, our fruits, our nuts, we are really choosing the nutrients and how we want to show up. So ask yourself, do you want to show up like life, like a cucumber sandwich, or do you want to show up like a cow that says moo?
That is the question right there. So
You got choices.
absolutely, we all got choices. So once again, I want to thank you for your time. I do appreciate it. And that is all we have for today's episode. Until next time, everyone out there, be safe, be healthy, and bye-bye.
Wraps up another episode. I hope today's discussion provided clarity and tools you can use in your daily life. If you're ready to take the next step in the healing journey, I'd love to connect. Head over to my website to schedule a free 15-minute consultation. It is a great opportunity to ask questions and see how we can work together. And while you're there, download my complimentary workbook designed to help you reflect, grow, and move towards mental wellness, happiness, and success. Thanks for listening, and I will see you next time. The Rhythm of Healing, the Octaves Method. O is for observation, through stillness we find meditation and breath work that quiet the mind. In silence we listen, the answers are clear, awareness emerges, dissolving the fear. C is for compassion, for self and for all, embracing the good, the struggles, the fall. With kindness we grow, we nurture, we mend, learning to love ourselves as we extend. T is for therapy, a path we explore. Daily we practice unlocking the door. From journaling to mindfulness, healing begins. Each step is a victory as peace settles in. A is for animals and laughter so bright, like children at play, their joy taking flight. With playfulness and movement, we rediscover the way to heal through the fun that we often delay. V is for victuals, nourishing and pure, detoxifying the body and keeping us sure. We choose what we eat with intention and grace, fueling our journey at our own pace. E is for exercise, where movement is free. We stretch and we bend in sweet harmony. Flexibility grows with choices we make in strength and in stillness. Our bodies awake. S is for socialize, where self-growth begins. Others reflect our triggers and the places within. Through relationships, our true selves we find, growing and healing with each tie that binds. The Octaves method, where all behavior makes sense. We just need to find the sense it presents. We just need to find the sense it presents. We just need to find the sense it presents.